Hello! You're listening to Everyday Encouragement, Timeless Truths for Today, a weekly podcast designed to bring you snippets of encouragement to help you as you go about your day. I'm Jenny Guy, your host. The heart-mouth connection is important, more important than we sometimes realize. What we think way down deep inside us, in our hearts, often escapes through the words in our mouths, no matter how carefully we may try to hide or cover up what we really think. Today's episode, What's in Your Mouth, explores that connection. Let's get started. My sister used to say, "What's said when drunk was thought when sober." That was her way of explaining that the outrageous, or maybe not so outrageous, things people say when they're drunk really aren't spontaneous outbursts. Rather, they're thoughts that have been freed up to be expressed when intoxication throws away etiquette's restraints. Let me add that it doesn't necessarily have to be inebriation that gives us permission to reveal what's in our hearts. Anger, extreme disappointment, or extreme satisfaction, fear, even sadness are examples of other triggers that prompt us to say what's in our hearts. The point is that sooner or later, what's in our hearts will come out. It would be fair to say that my sister's streetwise saying is a loose interpretation of Luke chapter 6, verse 45. That verse says, "A good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his heart, and an evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in his heart. For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of." Today's episode, What's in Your Mouth, puts the third leg on a three-legged stool that we began building with two previous episodes, It Shall Be Well and Can I Get a Witness? By looking at the Shunammite woman in It Shall Be Well, the first leg of our stool, we saw what responding with faith-filled words and actions looks like when navigating difficult circumstances. Can I Get a Witness? The stool's second leg talked about the Faith Hall of Fame. We were assured that there is nothing that we are going through now that hasn't already been endured and conquered by someone who is listed there. What's in Your Mouth? The third leg is constructed of three verses that work together to show us what needs to be inside of us so we too can say, "It shall be well," when we're facing our challenges and problems. The first of those three verses, Revelation chapter 12, verse 11, gives us a key to being victorious in life. That verse says, "And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony." What is the word of our testimony? It's whatever our hearts are full of and we speak. Let's start our examination of what it means to overcome by the word of our testimony by looking at the word, word. In English, we have only the one word for word. However, in the Greek in which the New Testament was written, there are two words that can be substituted for word. They are logos and rhema. They have different definitions, though, and depending on which one is used, the meaning of a verse can change. Logos is the entire God-breathed content of the Bible. On the other hand, rhema is that particular portion of the Bible that speaks specifically to you. For example, have you ever had the experience of reading your Bible and Suddenly a verse jumped out at you? Or maybe there was a passage that you'd read many times before, but this time when you read it, the words seemed new and they fit you precisely. Well, in both of those instances, you were receiving a rhema. God was taking a portion of His Logos and making it come alive for you right then. He was giving you a word, a rhema, in which you could find the answer, the guidance, the comfort, or the hope you needed in that moment. In Revelation 12:11, Logos is the word that is used. So the verse should read that we overcome by the Logos of God. We are being told to take the entire Bible and find in it those promises and assurances from God that address our problems. And when we find those promises and assurances, that's what we speak. That's the word of our testimony. We should be aware that what we say as we're going through our problems, our testimony, isn't limited to only those times. We're also testifying after we've come out of our situations, after we've overcome them, and we tell others about how we did it. Our testimony then helps them to overcome their challenges and problems. For us to have a victorious testimony, however, we have to make certain that we stock our hearts with the right materials. Here's where we need to turn to the second of today's 3 verses for guidance. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23 says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." In other words, be very, very careful about what you allow and who you allow to influence you. For over time, those influences will impact your thoughts, your behavior, and your words. Our third verse also comes from Proverbs. It's found in chapter 23, verse 7, and says, "For as he thinks in his heart, so is he." Taken together, these verses make it plain that what's in our hearts controls what we think, what we do, what we say. What's in our hearts controls our lives. Our thoughts are so deeply embedded in us that they seem automatic. Often, it's not until we hear ourselves talking, hear what is coming out of our mouths, that we discover what we're really thinking and thus likely to do. I have a pop quiz for you. Don't worry, it won't be graded. Pretend that the following scenarios are happening to you. Scenario number 1. You've been asked to train the replacement for your job. Scenario number 2. Your doctor has just given you a diagnosis that is life-changing. Scenario number 3. The loan your bank officer assured you that you would get so you could keep your fledgling business afloat was denied. Now for the quiz. What did you say to yourself as you imagined going through each situation? Did your words determine what you would do? Were you surprised by what you learned about yourself? For us to have a testimony that helps us overcome life's hard circumstances, we have to speak from hearts that are full of confidence in God and loaded with faith-filled thoughts based on His Logos. As a good starting point, Try going through the Psalms to find promises from God that you can store in your heart to use when difficulties come. In the Psalms, you will find just about every situation and every emotion that we are likely to experience in our lifetimes. But don't stop there. Keep going through the Old and New Testaments, for they are filled with God's promises. When you find something that seems to fit you, then appropriate it as yours. Pray over it, stand on it, speak it, testify to it. Pack your heart with God's Logos. Then, as you speak from a heart full of His Word, you will become an overcomer because of the word of your testimony. I hope you heard something today that has encouraged you and possibly given you something new to think about that will motivate or inspire you. If you would like a PDF copy of the show notes for this episode of Everyday Encouragement, Timeless Truths for Today, visit my website at jguypublisher.com. New episodes are published each week on Wednesday. I hope you'll join me for another installment of Everyday Encouragement, Timeless Truths for Today. Well, that's it for now. Until next time, be encouraged.